Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the BMW Blog Podcast. It's episode 51. Today, it's just Horatiu and I. We don't have a special guest, but I guess Horatiu is a special guest, right? You're the king BMW blog
I don't hear
guy,
that too often.
What's up, man?
So what's going on, Nico? It's been a couple of weeks since we've done an episode, I think.
Yeah, I've been AWOL on the podcast for a couple of weeks.
I don't know. Welcome back. You've been missed.
Sorry.
You missed a good podcast with Johnny Lieberman, but I think...
I know. I wanted to get on that one. I'm pissed at myself that I didn't.
No, I think we'll get
because,
Johnny back on very soon. And we'll have some other guests as well.
Not to be like a sycophantic journalist, but I'm a big fan of Johnny Lieberman's, actually. His Motor Trend days were the ones that got me really into cars, like reading Motor Trend magazine. So that's kind of, I was like, oh my god, I get to talk to Johnny Lieberman. I've been reading him since I was like 17.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, we had to cut it short. We're going like 90 minutes almost, and we said, let's just cut it short, and we'll come back to it.
Yeah, car guys, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Like Jason Camisa, we had to cut it in
Jason,
half.
yeah. Actually, we should bring Jason back after he drove the new M3 and M4,
right.
So we should definitely do that.
Yeah, right.
So today, I think I can give a preview of what we want to talk about. So you drove recently the M3 in both standard and competition models. One of them was with the manual 6-speed, so that's definitely one good topic. I can share a little bit about my trip to Los Angeles, where I drove the... I spent some time with the i4. I can't really say more than that today, but I can share some things that I've learned. The embargo is actually on June 1st, and they're going to unveil the i4 and the iX at the same time. I think there will be a lot of video reviews and just regular reviews coming out, but I can definitely share some things that I've learned while I saw the car there. And I think the last topic is I can also talk a little bit about the meeting that I had with the BMW Design team a few days ago. And actually, I was on a Zoom call with a few other journalists, and Adrian van Hooydonk, the BMW Group Chief of Design, and Domagoj Duquets, he's the head of design for BMW. And clearly, the main topic was the new design language and some of the feedback that we've received and they've received, and some other journalists as well. So I can definitely share a few things on that.
Right, I'm sure he doesn't want to hear the word grill.
Yes, that's an interesting topic for sure. So, you wanna kick it off?
Sure. So I'm really excited to talk about it. I don't want to give too much away because I don't want to ruin the reviews. But currently I'm driving an M3 competition. But last week I had the standard M3, the new G80 M3, and the standard one is 6-speed manual, 473 horsepower. And the competition, which I have now, is 503 horsepower and 8-speed automatic. And, I thought the differences were going to be like the competition has more power and it's kind of like less fun. Like I went into it thinking the manual is going to be the one I'm going to love. It's the one I requested first. So I was able to get that one first because I requested it. Because I just wanted the manual. And... the manual, I remember driving the manual and I was like, this is a good car. Like, this is a really good car. Much better than I was anticipating. And, it's really good. And then I got in the competition. I was like, this is a different beast. And I don't want to give too much away. But, I can't... I need to, talk to the product manager or something for the M3. Because I want to know, the exact changes that were done from standard to competition. Everything. If there were ball joints and bushings changed... camber changes, anything, because it feels surprisingly different. And I think that it will I think people are going to choose one or the other more based on how they drive than the transmission.
Gotcha.
I don't think you're going to get a lot of people who are going to say, well, I just want the standard because it's a manual. I think if they drive both, the way they drive will be more impactful on their purchase than the actual transmission, because they drive surprisingly different.
Yeah, I mean... there is also a significant power difference between the two of them, right?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, and I didn't think the power difference would be that dramatic, but it is. It's got more than 50 pound-feet more in competition. So, it definitely feels punchier, and it definitely feels like it has more of that torque everywhere feel.
Yeah.
Whereas the standard car, I noticed it didn't feel really, really powerful until 3,000 RPM. Whereas this one, the competition, it doesn't matter what RPM you're at. You put your foot down in any gear and it's just explosive. It's so brutal. It's I keep going back to what John Lieberman said with your podcast. Where you said it feels like a 4-door GTR, and it does. You know, like it kind of has that like brutal, like GTR like feel. It's kind of wild. Yep. I'm really impressed.
And aside from the power, how did the steering feedback seem to you?
The steering is interesting because it's definitely not super like communicative. Obviously, like no, I don't really. I hate bringing that up actually because like no car is communicative anymore, you know, unless it's like a McLaren with a hydraulic steering rack. But you know, you don't get a lot of feel. I think it's still I still think that the weight doesn't increase, like the weight of the steering doesn't increase as you turn, as you add lock enough. Like it kind of feels a little bit too video gamey. But the actual response is insane. Like the front end grip is some of the best I've ever felt in a car.
Interesting.
I don't know how they do it. It just does not understeer. It grip. There's so much front end grip. It's so fast and responsive. Like you just make these crazy, minute little adjustments, and it responds so well. And it really has that old school M3 feeling of like it's just so unbelievably direct. You just, point it wherever you want. It does exactly what you ask. It's really, really good. So like the actual feel itself isn't great, but the ends justify the means. Like the actual response is so good, I don't care about the feel anymore. Like it's such a good driving car. I'm really impressed.
Honestly, I feel the same way. I actually felt like it's super precise. To me, it was really good. Didn't take it on the track, but I know Chuck went to Spartanburg and drove the car, and I saw his review also, and he did mention, how precise it was. It was responsive. And then I saw some autocross that one of the driving instructors did there, and the car was just following his lead all the time. So I feel like they just it's really hard to improve upon that with the electric steering, but I think they still do a good job. So honestly, that shouldn't be even in the conversation. And on top of it, you can really adjust the settings. There's so many settings that you can adjust to make the car feel more responsive, and especially the feedback from the steering to be heftier, heavier. So,
the weight will definitely increase. My thing is not that it's too light; it's that, and this is all BMW M steering. Like M8 was the biggest offender to me. Was that like as you turn the wheel, it doesn't increase the weight enough. So like you don't get a feeling through your hands that there's like something happening to the
It's also a heavier car too.
But it is. It's much heavier. But like it's actually not as heavy as we first read initially, because I saw some like people put them on on a scale, and like the way that German car companies have to weigh.
You're talking about the M8 or the M3?
The M3, but no BMW is actually as heavy as they list, because the way German regulations, the way they have to weigh cars is off. Like it's overly heavy.
Well, I think they have to use
the way they weigh them.
They take an average of the drive or something like that, and then also half a tank of gas or maybe more. Right.
So there's like a couple hundred pounds added to every car. So it's not as, it's still heavy, but it's not as heavy as, because when we first came out, we saw the specs, we're like, holy crap.
It doesn't feel extremely heavy, honestly. Honestly, to me, it didn't really feel like it's crazy heavy.
No, it feels a little bit big. I will say that. It does feel a little bit bigger than like M3s of the past, but it is bigger, but like it's not a deal breaker.
It's just because it's based on the, 4 Series platform, 3 Series platform, so that was a little bit larger than the F30, basically.
Yeah. What I will say, though, is I think BMW changed the game with this. I really think that this moves sports sedans on. Like, this is the next step of sports sedans, because, like, when the Alfa Giulia Quadrifoglio came out, I remember thinking, like, this is the best sports sedan I've ever driven. Like, it just blew everything else away. I think this might be better. And I think the Giulia steering is probably a little bit sweeter, like the way it feels, not the response, like not the precision, but like it has such good feel, and it's so like wonderful to actually use. But I think the M3 is sharper. I really do. I think it's sharper. I think it's more dynamic. And one thing that really impressed me is it's surprisingly playful, like considering that it has so much grip and it's on the stickiest Michelins you can get, and it's there's just so much mechanical grip, and it feels so sure-footed. But if you do want to kick it out, it will slide a little, and it's not like with almost 500 pound-feet of torque, you'd figure it'd be like snappy, but it's not. It's really progressive. It slides nicely. It's playful. I'm really surprised by it. And I'm not Chris Harris. I'm not sliding around my streets. But like if I do try to push it around a little bit, you know, it does play. And then when it does slide, it's progressive. You can catch it easy. You know, you can really control it. I'm really happy with it. It's really, really good.
Yeah, so you know, I think it's all about the driving experience with the new M3 and M4. We've been saying that for quite some time. I think people have to go and drive the car. Even Johnny Lieberman said the same thing. You know that the Giulia QV. I mean, basically that was his favorite car, and now it has to be the M3 and M4. He was also raving about the M2 CS quite a bit. So I feel like the M division, when it comes to driving experience, I don't think they've let anyone down in a very long time. Even when you look at the large SUVs, X5M, X6M, I think they've done a fantastic job, taking into consideration the weight of their car, the size, and everything else. They're spectacular. So I don't think they're cutting any corners when it comes to the driving experience. Of course, there is the conversation about the DCT versus the automatic, which there are more implications there than usually we talk about. But basically, the DCT it's kind of on its way out, and there was no point to revise that for a new generation of cars, and it makes more sense to reuse the same technology that they've done in all the other M cars. So that's kind of the
plus the ZF 8-speed is great.
I don't see any shortcomings with that transmission. Honestly, every M car that I drove with that one, I mean, okay, maybe if you're a super professional racing driver, you take that kind of track, you might be able to tell the difference. But I highly doubt that 99% of the people or more will be able to tell the difference between the two immediately. Of course, the purist can tell the difference, but it's not something that will stand out immediately.
I will say, like, I do think that it would be a tiny bit more fun with the DCT.
Yeah,
like it would be, because the DCT is snappier. It gives it a little bit more character. It just kind of has like a kind of wilder feel. But this 8-speed is so good. It's so fast. And you know what I really love about it? The fact that it has 8 speeds, because you can cruise down the highway at highway speed, and it's turning over like under 2,000 RPM, and it's quiet. When you want to cruise, it's quiet, and it's comfortable, and it's firm, but it's one of those cars where like you hear bumps more than you feel them. Like it's comfortable enough to drive every day. It's quiet. The 8-speed, would it be more fun with the DCT? Yes, but I think it would be the increase in fun would be so marginal that it wouldn't be worth the decrease in comfort of the 8-speed. So I think it's one of those things, you just take it and drive it.
So without giving away too much from the reviews, but which one would you take if it comes down to an M3 manual versus an auto?
I don't know if I want to give away my answer, but I kind of do. I would take the
competition.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even think twice.
Gotcha.
Like it's so much better, and I don't know why. Like I mean, I know why. It just feels sharper. It just feels a little bit sweeter. It feels like it's better. It has more grip. It feels brutally fast. Like it feels so much faster in the real world. Like it feels like leaps and bounds faster, and it's because there's no shift time. It has more torque. It's just relentless, and it just has like this crazy, like brutal efficiency in how quickly it will go down any road, and it's so responsive. The manual is really good. It's great, but the actual manual itself isn't that good. Like it's kind of notchy feeling, which is kind of typical of BMW M cars, and it's not the best manual to use. So like when you're driving, you're kind of like, I kind of wish it was a better manual. But when you're driving the competition, the auto is perfect every single time. So it just, to me, I think the competition is worth the money.
So I think,
and I don't know what color my competition is called, because I keep looking on BMW's site and I can't figure out what color.
Yeah, so actually, I think that's
listed on my sheet as bronze.
Yeah, that's not bronze. It's actually, I think it's Brooklyn Gray. I think the one that you had.
Is it Brooklyn Gray? It's when because I have to sign like a document every time I get a press car, send a document, and they list the color on it every single time, and the color usually has the exact name, like Portimao blue or whatever. This one just said bronze, so I texted the guy. I was like, "Bronze? What color is bronze?"
No, I think it was Brooklyn gray based on what I saw. I think it's
It does have like a bronze sheen to it, like in certain lights it looks kind of bronze. So I don't know if it was that like David gray or whatever it's called.
Pretty sure it's Brooklyn gray. I mean, we'll find out for the
Maybe
review. I'm
Brooklyn
curious
gray.
too.
I don't know, but it looks really good. And my car doesn't have a Monroney in it, like, so I don't know what color. It doesn't have a spec sheet, so I don't know what color it is exactly. So I got to find out.
But yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to the M3 M4 competition, I think the real task to me will be when the X-Drive version comes out. So the all-wheel drive, I'm really curious to see how much faster, how much better that car is. And I do have a feeling that in certain parts of the US, that will be the number one selling M3, M4, probably followed by the regular rear-wheel drive competition. And I'm assuming that the standard manual, 6-speed manual, will be probably the least bought.
Yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if the standard 6-speed gets discontinued at some point.
I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, there is no way. I think 7 years from now, I don't think you'll see. Maybe you're not even going to see a regular combustion M3, M4. It's either going to be hybrid or fully electric. Actually, I don't think they've decided yet based on what I know. I mean, it's now super solid info, but I don't think they've fully decided yet what's going to be with the next generation. I'm sure they have some ideas and plans, but I'm actually extremely curious to see, so 7 years from now, almost 2029, 2028 there. So they have to, they got to finalize plans probably the next 2 or 3 years going into that. So I don't know, do you want to come out with a hybrid in 2028, 2029, or you just want to go full electric versus waiting another generation, which would put you into, 2035, 6. 2030s. That is...
And with the Tesla Model 3 performance already existing, I don't think, I even think Mercedes is going, AMG is going hybrid with the next C63. I don't even think that's smart. I think they should just go straight.
Yeah, but then again, you have to think their production probably started, or that plan, or started 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Well, that's true, but the Model 3 performance has been around.
Yeah, that's true,
years.
But I don't think there was that much hype around electric cars 6, 7 years ago. And
no, I know. It's that thing. This has just changed the game. I think everyone needs to go.
It's also it also happens that if you're stuck in the cycle somewhere in the middle and you can't really change things, even though it makes sense to change them, then you basically have to come out with something like this. I mean, if the M3 and M4 would have come out in 2 years from now, I'm pretty sure they would have probably done a hybrid right away and then go fully electric the next generation. But I do wonder what will happen, honestly, because I think if everybody does electric sports cars in that segment and you're stuck, with hybrids, then you have to kind of justify that, even though some people might actually like it because you're still retaining the engine sound and all of that. So maybe, now to play the devil's advocate, if you're looking at from the other side, if everybody goes fully electric and you're offering a hybrid with performance and sound, maybe, that's kind of like a selling point. But I don't want to be Marcus Flash, honestly, to have to make those decisions right now because everything is moving so fast. That's kind of what I talked to BMW a few days ago in that meeting with Van Hooydonk and Ducats. Basically, they also said, that they've never seen so many changes in the automotive space in such a short time frame, ever. So even them, they're constantly trying to adapt. That's why you see, we haven't talked about this, but my assumption is that's why you see all these large screens now coming to life cycle products, basically. So they still have to redesign quite a bit the interior to accommodate for that, versus before it was really just a small facelift inside and nothing major and, move on. But now they're moving fast with technology, so they have to adapt quickly. So it's going to be the same thing for M and probably the entire brand, but especially for M. I mean, those guys always have to deliver really good products, and I'm sure it's extremely stressful in Garching right now.
Right, and I mean that change is also a complete 180 from the brand heritage, right? Like if you're going electric, that's so much different than anything M's ever really done. I mean if you're coming out with something like an i4 or an iX, that's a regular BMW car. You just make it good to drive, efficient, comfortable, things like that. But an M car is based entirely on driving dynamics and fun and the thrill of actually driving it. And electric cars, it's it's tough to get that because you lose that emotional connection with the internal combustion engine. You lose that. So how do you replace that? And that's tricky. That must be difficult.
So that was actually
as for
so in this call actually, either was Hannah Elliott from Bloomberg or some other journalist. I don't remember if it was her that asked the question, but Van Hooydonk was asked, how do you differentiate now in between electric performance cars, because they're all kind of performant and all of that. And I think Adrian kind of gave an answer, said, years back I would have thought that maybe there is no differentiation and you can't really differentiate, but now they feel like they can still deliver an ultimate driving machine even with an electric drivetrain, because it's more than just straight line performance that it can do. So they said that even though the ingredients have changed, that doesn't mean that you cannot make a car that stands out in competition with other brands. So I feel like they're still going to try to deliver that, BMW driving performance engagement, whatever you want to call it, despite, having an electric drivetrain or a hybrid. So,
right. Yeah, no, I'm definitely curious to see it. And I can't say much about it, and I know you can't say much about yours.
Yeah.
But I saw the iX in person. I spent a little bit of time with it. I didn't get to drive it, but I saw it in person, and I got like the full specs and everything. And it's under embargo, so I can't say anything.
So we can probably tease. I mean, not tease, but we can tell people that basically the embargo lifts off on June 1st at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Right.
That's when everything is going to be coming out. There will be a lot of news from everyone, not just us. I mean, there were quite a few people that had a chance to see the car in the US, in Europe. I think there were even some customer previews and all of that. So there will be a lot of info coming out on both cars. There will be a full unveil of the i4 interior, exterior specs and all of that, and I'll tell you more in a second. And then the iX, basically absolutely a full reveal. I don't know if they're going to announce the pricing, but we'll find that out soon. But I guess from your end, you'll definitely have like a report that you can talk about some of the cool features on the iX, because I feel like the iX, it's really all about tech. It's not necessarily about the tuning wheel and all of that, even though people want to talk about that. But I feel like it's super, super advanced when it comes to tech, and it's definitely worth seeing, talking about it. Yeah. So we can at least share that.
I won't say anything specific, but the kidney grill, the iX will surprise people. I'm just gonna say that. I'm not gonna say anything more about that, but it will surprise some people.
Cool.
But I think if they just in speaking in generalities with the iX and the i4, I think with the tech they have in those cars, the electric powertrain technology, I don't see why M can't make a fun M3 fully electric. Like when you see what they've done, like because BMW kind of had this weird period where they were doing really nothing in the electric space, right? They had the i3 and the i8, and then they just stopped really making anything interesting in the electric space. And then now they're coming out with these two cars, and you go, okay, well now I kind of see what they've been doing with at least some of that time. Because I think when you see them, people are going to say, "Oh, okay, this is going to be cool. These are going to be."
Yeah,
cool
I don't
cars.
see why the iX wouldn't sell like crazy.
iX.
Honestly, I think the iX will sell insanely well. If the pricing is in the X5 range as they talk about, basically, all those models kind of mimicking whatever the pricing for the 40, 50.
Right. Yeah. It's going to have X5.
Yeah. So then I don't see why you wouldn't sell well. But yeah, we'll talk about that more.
If the range can hit the EPA numbers in the real world, like if they can get the numbers they're saying in the real world, I don't see, like, if you're asking me as a customer, if I'm going to buy an X5 M50i or any X5 over an iX, I'm not going to pick the X5.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah, it's just if they're the same price and the range is good, why get the older, less high-tech model?
And then the iX, the EPA range, people, need to know that it's based on best case scenario. So, for example, in Chicago, I'm never going to hit probably that EPA rating, especially in summer is too hot. You got to crank that AC up. In winter is too cold. You got to go the other way around. So I'm always fully aware that I'm never going to be able to hit that. But even if it gives me at least double the range that I get in an i3 today, having a nice package and super tech, I'm sold. And fast charging and everything, definitely sold on it. But we'll be interested to see prices.
I think another thing that people need automakers need to advertise when it comes to electric cars and their range isn't necessarily the range, because like you said, the range can change based on weather, based on usage. Like, are you on the highway? Are you in the city? Are you in stop and go traffic? Or are you in suburban traffic? Are you using the heat, the AC, whatever? That all can completely change your range. I think what's important is the efficiency of the motor, like the powertrain. How many miles per kilowatt hour or whatever are people getting?
Sure.
And if it gets good efficiency, like if you're getting, I think between 3 and 4 is like miles per kilowatt hour is quite good. I think if you're getting that, then it's a good car. That's, I think, is a better judge of powertrain, efficiency than the actual total range, because so many things can change that.
So that leads me into the i4. So basically, I was in LA, ran into BMW of North America, and they were playing around with the new i4, fully camouflage and all of that. So they asked me to kind of jump in and take a look at the car. And fortunately, I can't really say too much about the car, but I can share the things that we've said in the article on the website. So June 1st, full unveil. There'll be 2 models unveiled on June 1st. My assumption is they haven't confirmed that. They didn't tell me anything, but I feel like there will be a 3rd model sometimes in the future, maybe a cheaper version with just a rear-wheel drive and lower range, so a smaller battery pack. And they did say that those 2 cars that will be unveiled have the same battery size, but just different capacities. So that's one thing. So they're sharing the same battery, and then they didn't want to talk much about the rear-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive. But I got a feeling that at least one of the cars will be an all-wheel drive, and that's probably the M50 that we've been talking about. They didn't tell me the name, but for sure that's going to be the name. So i4 M50, and probably the other one is i440, I think.
Yeah, so wait, is it i440 or is it i4 M50?
So it's i4 M50, that'll be the top one. And then the other one, see, they keep changing those names. I don't know if it's going to be i440 or i4 eDrive 40. So that's one thing that I want to find out.
That's very confusing.
I don't know which one makes more sense. i440, which could be confused with 440i, or i4 eDrive 40, which is a mouthful. I'm not sure, but regardless of the name,
I kind of like i440.
Regardless of the name, I think they also share some of their specs. 300 miles range, I believe, on the i4 M50, and the other car probably it's going to get better range because it's less powerful. So there is a balance there in between power and battery capacity. So I'm assuming the other one will have a little bit more range, but we'll learn about that too. And horsepower as well. Only one was communicated, so 500 to 500 something horsepower probably for the top model, and the other one I expect it to be not significantly less, but definitely in the 400 range probably. So that's that. iDrive 8, it's standard. I had a chance to kind of see it on that large screen, played around a little bit with it. Can't say much, but I liked it. So I can say that I liked it. It's cool. I do like the large screen. Can't say much more about that either, unfortunately. I wish we did. I mean, we'll do a podcast after June 1st since I'll have a chance to see the car fully unveiled. The car was camouflage, so I did spend some time going around the car. It doesn't happen too often because they usually drive off when you get too close to a prototype. But they actually let me inspect it, and it's got some really slick proportions. I mean, if you look from the side and the 3/4 view and the rear quarter view, I mean, it's beautiful. It's got that Grand Coupe, and I think they've always nailed the Grand Coupe design. So I actually like this one quite a bit. The car seems to sit a little bit lower than the 3 Series. I was just kind of eyeing that, and to me, and then to me it sits lower, which means that it's got really nice balance on the road, lower center of gravity, so it probably drives quite well. Sure. We'll talk about that after June 1st. And it's got the lift gate, so that's not a question anymore. So just like the other,
it does have the
force, same thing. Yeah,
yeah.
Quite spacious boot actually, really really spacious. So no issues there. And
does it have a fruit?
The
front boot.
Actually, I did not look at that actually. It's one thing I did not look. I forgot to ask. I'm so used to conventional cars. I did not ask about that. So I don't know, honestly, but I'll...
Yeah, it is always tricky. Every time I'm with an electric car,
Yeah.
like in the front trunk, I'm like, oh yeah.
It's a good question. I wish I'd ask, actually, but I'll find that out on June 1st for sure. What else can I reveal about the car that we wrote about? It's got some beefy tires. I think the largest one was a 285 rear. Yeah, 265, 285, I believe it was.
They staggered.
Yeah, I mean, at least on that model. I don't know if it's different from model to model.
Right.
And 19 and 20 inches options. I think they said a 19 might be for the US or maybe just for the top model, the 20. I don't recall that, but we will know the full details then. What else? Okay. Yeah, so just typical 4 Series. I guess they try to emphasize this idea of that they want customers that jump from a 4 Series coupe or Grand Coupe with a gasoline engine to just feel at home and jump into the i4 and not having to think about, okay, this is an electric car, this is different now, what I need to do, and all of that. So they're trying to keep things the same as far as design, tech. There are some differentiation when it comes to tech inside, but not too much. So, yeah.
It's always something I was curious about because it seems like, and I've asked this to like every automotive exec we've talked to. Like, what is the best way to make an electric car? Do you make it funky and wild and different, or do you make it similar to your traditional product so that your customer base can just feel very familiar, feel very at home? Like, I don't know. It seems weird. So I guess the i4 is going opposite of the i3, right?
I'll tell you more on that because I asked that question to Adrian van Hooydonk, actually. So I'll tell you in a second about that as well. But so let me see. What else on the i4? Trying to think what else I can say without breaking any embargoes. Trying to remember what we wrote on the article. Oh yeah, the brake regeneration. So definitely different than the i3. I believe it follows the same logic, same idea or engineering as the iX3. I haven't driven the iX3. I know some of our guys did, and I feel like it's probably a version of that. So there will be a few different brake regeneration modes, and I think that's one feature that the engineer was really, really excited about, and we talked about it quite a bit. We even have a video interview on Top of the Hill, talking about that. So on June 1st, I will publish that video. It's definitely quite interesting. So brake regeneration. The car looks actually to be also quite wide, actually. So when you look from the rear, I mean, it was really wide. I mean, it's got some really nice, fenders there, flared a little bit. So definitely look like a sports car. And then I saw the engineer drive off a few times, and it seemed pretty quick to me, honestly. There was an M2 around there, and it was quick. It was really quick.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's 500, horsepower,
instant torque,
just over 500.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
so
crazy. I mean,
man,
I'm just thinking about the M3 competition with its 500 horsepower and how well it handles, and that's a similar chassis. Not MFI'd, but it's.
I think that should be the first test that we do.
It has the same amount of power.
That should be the first test that we do. M3 versus i4. Actually, that's a great idea.
Yeah, let's
that would be really cool. Actually, we need to start working on that already. But so I guess production later this year. We might see the first units in the US by the end of the year, or latest early next year. I think they moved production either to late summer or early fall. So that'll be cool. But yeah, I guess we'll learn more. I think it's an exciting car. I've been driving i3s for the last 6-7 years. So I'm on my 4th i3. So I have quite experience with electric cars, and I'm definitely excited about this one. It's a long time coming, and I got a feeling that BMW customers or fans will actually like it too. Of course, they're going to talk about the kit and grill, and that's another conversation. But on this car, it definitely bothers me less than it would on an M3 and F4.
That's a funny one, right? Does the fake giant kidney grill on an electric car, is that more egregious than the real giant kidney grill on the?
I haven't seen it. It was covered, so I can really talk about the final design because I really have not seen it. But I can go by what we saw on the photos that they released. I mean, they already showed the kidney grill, so it's out in the open. Really, there's no secret. But I do like it actually on the i4. It doesn't bother me too much. And especially with that M Sport package that they showed, the i4 M Sport or M50, whatever that model was, it looked really good. So it just feels at home, feels futuristic a little bit. It's, I mean, still big for sure, but I don't know, it just doesn't bother me.
I will say, again, I don't want to give anything away, but I will say that the kidney grill on the iX, and I think it's probably the same on the i4, is cooler than it looks. I'm just going to say, like, I think fans are going to be like, oh, that's pretty cool.
So we'll definitely reveal more.
I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, actually. And everyone, I think everyone knows, anyone who reads our site knows my feelings on the new kidney grill, so we won't go there, but I think that I think it's cooler. The new ones are going to be cooler than a lot of fans think they are now.
Yep. So so since we talk about the design, I can probably end with this, unless you want to go first with something else. I don't want to take all the space. So I mean, I feel like this is an interesting topic, and we're going to keep it a little bit shorter today. So so I had a Zoom meeting, few journalists, and like I said, the head of design and the head of BMW Group Design, so Adrian van Hooydonk, is pretty much in charge of Rolls-Royce, BMW, Motorrad, and Mini. And then each subdivision, each brand has its own head of design. So in this case will be Domagoj Dukic. He was previously the head of M Design and BMW I. And then basically a few years ago, he got promoted. Definitely the work on some of those models started under his tenure, but I think the 4 Series really started, I think, before he actually took over the head of design position, but that's not the point. So anyway, so the topic of conversation in that meeting was really the new design language and some of the feedback received. They wanted to talk to us about their thinking process, how they went about it, what was the reason why they wanted to do this. And they also shared a toned down version of a presentation that they showed to the board. So basically, the way that it works, from what I understood a long time ago and even more recently when they shared that, they have to present a business case to the board. So what they do is they do a presentation, they do sketches that they show ahead of time, then they build a full scale clay model, and so on and so forth. And they still have to convince the board that this is the right direction for design, for engineering, so on and so forth. So part of their job is really to come up with a storyline saying, okay, why are we doing this bold design and different, and is it going to be successful? So basically, after they show the clay model, the board makes a decision, okay, this is the right direction that we want to go, and it makes sense. And in order to get those models approved, they also need to come up with a good storyline. And in this case, the idea was that the customer is someone that's expressive and elegant, so they call them expressive and elegant creators. And that's kind of a tie into the new generation of customers, Y and Z generation, which everybody tries to cater to. And they took some of their traits, they're being more bold in creating things, more open to things, and they were trying to incorporate that into the design. We did not get into a lot of details what that really means when it comes to sketching, products and what it really means. But I guess they were trying to emphasize that, okay, we have a new type of customer that doesn't mind, going bold in a new direction. And this is what we want to cater to as well. Not necessarily entirely to them, but we want to cater to them as well. And I push back a little bit on that because I feel like from the feedback that I see, and I even told them that, is that, the Y and Z generation are bold creators. They're open, they're on social media and all these things, and they're always willing to create new things. But at the same time, there is this shift where they fully embrace analog and old school products. And I give the example of, a lot of the young generation, they have fond memories of, E30s and E36 and other models from their parents or grandparents or, older siblings and so on and so forth. And basically, they feel like that's the, that's the cool thing to have, and Domagoj agreed with me that, he even sees the young generation being into vinyl discs, or cassettes and, Walkman and all of that. So he did agree with me on that. We didn't expand too much on this because I wanted to find out, well, if they're doing both, how do you cater to those two mindsets? So time was a little short, not so many people like on the call, but I definitely want to do a follow-up on that, because if you're saying that they're elegant creators and, you know, bold and expressive, but at the same time they are conservative a little bit when it comes to the design, then what's the right balance? So a follow-up on that for sure. And then I did ask the question next to Adrian van Hooydonk was, we always wanted to find out if BMW made the right choice when it comes to having a dedicated electric platform versus a flexible, or whatever they call it now, not flexible, power of choice, but it's essentially a flexible platform. So one platform can host all the drivetrains, and especially knowing that they started really the dedicated EV platform with the i3. I mean, 2010, that was just a fully dedicated EV platform, like a bespoke one-off. And now they are going back to that, from what I know, 2025. They're talking about the new class, whatever that. I'm trying to
the new class.
Remember the name. Anyway, there is a short name to it. So they're going back to that. So what I wanted to find out was, from the design standpoint, do you as a designer prefer to work with a dedicated platform because you have a lot more freedom in expression, in design, in packaging, in all of that, or you feel like you're constrained when it comes to a flexible architecture? But really the underlying question was like, okay, did BMW really make a mistake? And you know, Adrian is very good at, you know, giving answers. So I've known him for quite some time, so I knew he's not going to get into a lot of details. But I did get the answer that I wanted to hear, and kind of confirm what you and I always talked about, and some other journalists too. It makes more sense to have a dedicated EV platform when it comes to design. It might not be the most cost effective. So you know, profits might not be as high as having a flexible platform, and you have to make some bold decisions, because if you're going into that direction, it's not working out, then you don't have a fallback plan, or a plan B, as you do have with a flexible one, because you can always shift production from gasoline to electric and vice versa anytime. But yeah, he did give me the answer that I wanted to hear, was that yes, you know, you have a lot more freedom when it comes to design. He was looking from a design perspective, not engineering, when it comes to an EV platform. And I guess I got a feeling that, you know, it's going to be exciting to see what they can do with the next generation cars, which are, you know, based on this one. So, you know, we've done plenty of comparisons between the i4 and like the Audi e-tron product, especially the GT, which is not necessarily one-to-one, but that's the best that we could do with what they have today. And of course, you know, once you're designing a bespoke product, you can really go in every and possible direction when it comes to design and make it really, really cool. So, unfortunately, they're stuck in this, you know, period right now in 2021, 2025. So whatever we see next as far as the electric products, they're definitely built on the power of choice, flexible architecture. So you will see cars that look like normal BMW cars, but they have an electric drivetrain. So I'm assuming by 2030 you will see hopefully some exciting products like you know, i8 like, or you know, not even that, maybe larger Grand Coupes that will be like quite bespoke and being super cool. And even the SUVs, I got a feeling that we will see some cool SUVs coming out after 2025.
Well, look at the iX.
Yeah.
I mean, the iX is its own bespoke electric
It is,
platform. And I mean, even though it's the same price as the X5,
Yeah.
you know, and it's a similar in size, it looks completely different. Like it doesn't even look close to an X5, and that's not even just its designs, its proportions. The overhangs are so much shorter. You know, it just looks like a sleek new thing, and it's because their designers have so much more room for creativity and flexibility, because there's no powertrains in the way. There's nothing there. So it's just so much easier.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic.
Up...
I'll definitely ask them some point, maybe offline, off the record. I don't think they're going to tell it officially, but I want to find out, you know, why do you have, you know, a dedicated iX platform that you can really build any other product on, but then you have the power of choice. Like, when was decision made? Well, why is there an overlap? So I'm kind of curious to kind of understand what they were thinking, or some of the challenges, but hopefully if it's on the record so we can share. If not, I'll try to at least, you know, sneak in some things that I've learned. But yeah, so moving back to the meeting, Adrian was only on for a few minutes. I mean, basically he's hands off when it comes to direct management of the design team. That falls under Domagoj basically. So Domagoj is the right person to kind of talk about, fine details. And I appreciate it. And I think all on the call appreciate the fact that he spent some time kind of going through that presentation and kind of telling us, what he was thinking. He showed some sketches. He did show the sketches of there was this Vision Next 100 car that came out for the 100 years anniversary, 2016 maybe. And basically they were saying that inspiration for the grille came from there. But if you look at that car, because I actually included that photo in the article, it was a downsized version of the grille that you see today. So I was waiting for my turn to ask that follow-up question. Unfortunately, time was up, but I have it on my list because I wanted to find out, well, was there a middle ground for that Kinin grille? Was there something that, because if you're looking at that, Vision Next 100, and also if you look at the CSL concept that they've showed.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, just take a look at that. So Vision Next 100 is the futuristic concept that really, it's going to drive a lot of the tech in the iX.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So if you look at that grille.
Oh, see, that was cool.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my next question, but I didn't want to take too much time on my when it was my turn. So I was waiting for the next one. It didn't come. So anyway, but I wanted to say, well, why didn't we do that? Because that would have been cool. Because that looks like a middle ground in between what you have now and the M3 and M4.
Yeah, for sure.
It's cool looking. It's kind of retro futuristic. So it's got that retro look. Because they've showed that grille a little bit on the CSL concepts. They unveiled the Pebble Beach 2 years in a row. Mm-hmm. So those look really cool. I haven't heard anyone complain about that grille. So I don't know.
No, this looks great. The Vision concept, and it's funny. The futuristic Vision concept, the grille is so much tamer than the one on the production car.
Anyway, so that's one question. The second question I have on the list that I will do a follow-up. I'm trying to see if we can get somebody from the design team on a podcast and talk even more detail about this. But the final question that I had, and I think that's the one that drove a lot of comments on the website as well, is iconic design elements. So one of the feedback that I've seen, aside from the Kinin grille, I guess everybody talks about that, but there were quite a few interesting comments from people that said, Kinin grille is fine, but at the same time, why did they remove the Hofmeister King, or why is the Hofmeister King different? Because BMW said that on some newer cars, the Hofmeister King is really there, but it's reimagined, reinterpreted. I don't know what's the real story there. It seems like it's there, but it's not there. So, so I asked the question. So, what do you do with the design, icons? Basically, do you move away from them? And he said, he made some good points. Basically said if you look at the headlamps, the double round headlamps, they've changed over time. Yes, they were super cool when they came out, when they would start doing that with the E30s and so on and so forth. But then over time, they started to change, and now you don't really have double round headlamps. They're really more like, they call them squircles. I mean, I think they said that like in a video too, but it's kind of like a squircles, like a circle with a little square like at the top, basically.
A grown man, professional said the word
squircle. He didn't say it in this video, in this meeting. I think he said it in the previous video. They did a video when he explained the design to a little fan of the brand, and I think that's the term that they said it. It's that it might be used. So I don't know if that's what they use internally or not, but that's beside the point.
Well, I mean. And that's true. I mean, they have changed, but like not drastically until. I mean, even modern ones aren't that different. Like they're still too circular-ish.
Yeah, I mean they're squarish, right? So squarish circles.
Squarish now, but only because LEDs is just kind of more modern.
So anyway, I mean, I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly what he meant by all of that, but he was trying to make the point, Domagoj, that. Things change and they need to evolve. And one of the reasons why, that's why the Hofmeister King kind of went away was he did make a reference to the past where he said that that was a functional item before anything else. Apparently when, Hofmeister, the designer, came up with that, it was necessary for production for the rear quarter. And we didn't get into the details, why was it difficult to do or why was it needed. It was something to do with the rear door and the panels in there. And basically just stuck around over time because it was, cool and all of that. But apparently now you don't really need that, as a functional form. It's really just, for your viewing pleasure, really. So he said that some of those design change, some of those icons, that's why they change, because you might not need them today. In a separate meeting a very long time ago, I remembered, it wasn't part of this one, he did mention that, there are a lot of, I'm not sure if it was him or somebody else from the design, but mentioned that there are a lot of other car companies, they're copying now the Hofmeister King. So you're seeing that on a lot of brands, especially from Asia and all of that. So what do you do then? Do you stick to that? Do you try to come up with something different and new and something that will make you stand out? So I don't know if it's the right choice or not, because we didn't get into this debate, okay, you are wrong and I was right, or it's not my place because I'm not a designer, and definitely I can't really, say that this was the right choice or not. I was just sharing the feedback that I got from our readers and from people on social media that basically said, well, we kind of missed that Hofmeister King. So I asked the question. So the bottom line was that the idea is that some things have to change sometimes. And that kind of brought me back in my mind to the Bengal era a little bit too, where he started the flame surfacing and all of that, which was not done before. And he kind of started that trend as well, which then was copied by other automakers, too.
Right.
So,
I get it. I get it. I mean, here's the funny thing though, right? You have to change a little bit, right? You have to adapt to keep customers coming back, because customers like new. And if your BMW looks like a Honda, because like the new Accord has like a Hofmeister King sort of. So like, if your BMW looks like a Honda, customers are going to be a little upset. The only people that are going to be upset are the nerds that love those old school touches, but they're probably still going to buy the brand anyway. So they're probably smart from a business standpoint to change and update those things. The only thing I think that frustrates fans is that BMW is a rare brand in the fact that they have like several iconic design elements. Like if you look at a new Mercedes, it looks nothing like an old Mercedes, right? Like it looks nothing like a 90s Mercedes. Same with Audi. Same with, like they don't have these like iconic design elements that really stick around for decades and decades. BMW does. The Kidney Girl, the Hofmeister King, things like that. So when they change them, it does bother fans, because this has been BMW is fortunate to have those classic traditions, so changing them does feel a little disappointing, but they're probably right from a business standpoint to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, exactly. Maybe one day we'll know the full story, right? I mean, right now no one's going to really tell you everything up front. They will share as much as they can. But I guess one day we'll find out really what was the decision behind all of this, and we'll see who was right. I mean, I don't care for us to be right, or just it's just a fact right now. And I think it's been beaten to death, the whole design thing, and it's taken away from some of the tech. That's cool. But then the last point on this, and based on the comments that I saw on the article, somebody mentioned Porsche, and keeping the icons, alive and all of that. And fair point, absolutely. Porsche done a fantastic job, just small iteration on the cars and all of that. And they're safe, and they're just great cars. And there is no doubt. I mean, two things there. I mean, Porsche is so much smaller brand when it comes to volume, so it's a little bit easier for them to kind of just keep everything the same, because it's a small customer base versus a very wide and diversified that you would see on the BMW brand. I mean, if you look at the 4 Series, there are probably so many different type of customers, not just one. And then secondly, I was one of the critics of the evolutionary design, the BMW, the approach that they took all the time. Every generation it came out, it was kind of like, just like the previous one, just slightly changed, like especially from the F30 on, the
same sausage.
Yeah, exactly. From the FX whatever model, generation 5, 7, 3.
They were very, very
exactly.
Very
so
similar.
I remember people, complaining about that. Now they're copying Audi. They're, like you said, same sausage, different length. So then, okay, what's the right approach? Probably a middle ground, right? Which I'm sure it's not easy to find, but I'm sure a middle ground would have been good. But yeah, I mean, at least today you're not going to be making the mistake in between a 3 and a 4 Series, or a 4 and a 5, or a 7 and an 8. So they will be significantly different. So that was an interesting topic. And then the other message that he wanted to send out, and we kind of knew it, but he did say that he's heard the feedback and all of that, but that doesn't mean that every single product at BMW will get a large kidney grille. I don't know what's large or if they're all gonna increase in size a little bit or just some of them. I don't know, but he did explain that every model line has a different customer base and a different type of design that will cater to that customer base. So the expectations are that you're not going to just take this grill and slap it on all the cars. And I think we see that with the 2 Series that comes out. It's got a normal, kidney size, the M2 as well.
The X1.
X1, yeah.
The spy photos of that.
Exactly.
It has a normal grill. So some other ones, I think, I can't remember off the top of my head.
So I mean, I don't want to be in their shoes, honestly, especially in the design team, because they're taking a lot of fire from all sides. I mean, I don't think another question that I had prepared, there were like 4 of them. I only managed to ask 2 or 3, actually 5. Basically was, how do you deal with all this negative feedback that you see on social media? And basically, I mean, it's got to be tough, because if you're a designer and you see your car being bashed all the time, especially for the actual designer that does the car, I mean,
right? People confuse that. Like it's not the head designer that's designing.
It's not. I mean, he did say in another video that he doesn't pen anymore, but I mean, still under his direction. They're always competing designs basically, and him and the top bosses make the decision. But I don't know. I mean, not hopefully. I think the design conversation will continue when the i4 and iX are unveiled, and then some other ones as well. I don't think it's going to die out soon, but we will do a follow-up on this. We'll try to be more specific in some of the questions, kind of drill into to get more. What I want to know is really like what went a little bit behind the scenes, like, okay, now tell me, why was this decision made and why does it make sense, and so on and so forth. And then we'll see next year, when sales reports come out, how the cars sold. I mean, so that was an interesting conversation, for sure. I mean, definitely a good insight in seeing, especially the PowerPoint presentation was really, really cool, because it kind of show how they approach design. They don't go directly to sketches. They try to come up with a customer, so it's like a scenario, and then based on that, they try to build those sketches, and then they move on from that. And so on. And there were some sketches. They actually showed us some sketches, and we were told specifically not to take photos of that. But we saw some sketches that were never released, basically like iteration of the 4 Series and the M3 and M4. And they were quite interesting and quite cool looking, actually. I mean, actually, there was a sketch of this, still with a large kidney grill, but it was a super, super slick 2-door. Oh my God, it was so beautiful. I mean, I was just thinking if that car would be like in production, it would be amazing looking, like absolutely amazing.
So yeah, that's interesting. Why would they go away from that and go to this one?
It was a sketch, so I don't know if that sketch will translate into production, because if you go in production, and this is a story that I've been pitching to them for a few years now, and actually last year we're getting close to kind of trying to seal the deal, was letting me come to their design studio in Munich and kind of take me behind the scenes, blindfold me so I don't see some of the new products, but kind of walk me through what it means to design the car, because you're making all these sketches and the clay models, but then when it goes into the engineering process, into the building process, you have to follow, and especially, and not just that, even like towards the end of the design process, from what I know, they have to now follow all these rules and laws and regulations when it comes to pedestrian safety, to safety in general, and so many other things, that you have to follow. So that's going to influence your design. So it doesn't matter what you sketch, it's always going to look cool. But now you got to have this upright nose. It cannot be too slick. And I think those rules apply based on volume as well. That's why some supercars, they're still able to do that. So I think when it's volume based, now you got to have, a more upright nose. It's got to be a certain height. It cannot be too low. Then, the side mirrors, they cannot be too slick, because, if you hit someone, I mean, there's insane amount of things. And I always wanted to kind of, go take a model from BMW and kind of walk me through and say, here's what we changed from the sketch to this, and this is why. This is the law that says that, this is that. So now we can really see why do we have to change all these things. And then the other thing, I've learned from them, talking to designers, that every time you make a sketch with this really 22, 23, 24-inch wheels, it's always going to look cool, It's always going to be this super slick, cool, no door handles, no side mirrors, no anything. It's amazing looking, but hopefully that's a story that I'm going to try to get out soon with, show me what has changed from the sketch. But nonetheless, it was an interesting insight into the design process that not many of us know. So
Yeah, no, for sure. It is definitely a different beast than the fans know of, because there, like you said, there's so much that goes into it. Then after the design is done, then the engineers come in and say, "Oh, can't do this, can't do this, can't do this, can't do this because of regulations and whatever." And then it has to be changed. Then you have to you change one thing, and then you got to change 20 things because you can't just change one thing; it'll look odd. So I don't envy the job of an automotive designer at all.
Yeah, and I always hear this thing also. I mean, I think some of our colleagues wrote about this too, like, the accountants, have changed the car. Doesn't really work that way. So basically, when you build out a car, if you had unlimited amount of money and you can afford to do a 1% profit on that car, and then you're going to be able to pack in that car everything you want. Right? The latest tech, the latest screens, the latest everything you want, the top quality leather, whatever you want, but then you're just not going to make money, right? So I think that it's always a balance in between, keeping that premium and high tech, look, and then also still making some profits on the car, because in the end you're a public company, and then you need to make money for the shareholders. And in the end, that's all it really makes or break a company. It's how much money you actually make. And if you look at Apple, they kind of do the same thing. They iterate very slowly on products. They don't go all out. I'm sure Apple could do a super crazy iPhone every year with the latest tech that you see on Samsung and some other products. But they just don't. They just go smaller iteration. That's, just their approach on how they make money. So I think with cars is kind of the same way. I think each car has a target, from what I know, on what's the profitability for that. It might be higher on some cars, like the SUVs might be lower on M products because they're not that much volume. So then you need to be within those constraints. So then you start looking at where you can save some money. Do you need to use this large screen or this leather? You can do that, so on and so forth. So I think that's also a topic that not everyone talks about a lot. But I would love to see that, like that's spreadsheet or whatever software they have, where they have like thousands of suppliers and parts, and they say, okay, now let's see what we're going to put in this car.
It would be interesting. I think it's a good idea for a video. Yeah. Like see a sketch or see, a design that was changed because of what regulations or what, cost purposes, or, that would be interesting. Like how a car goes from the drawing to the production car, and what constitutes
exactly. I mean, you look at Tesla too, right? I mean, Tesla doesn't have the most premium finishes and products too, so they're probably looking for profitability, and they're banking on the fact that customers might not care that much about the the quality inside. They just care about the electromobility and all of that, or
they don't care if it rains inside the car. They just want it to
whatever. But then, if you look at some might say, well, Audi is doing some fantastic interiors, and they can do that. Then again, I don't know what's the story there. They might have more money. They might have more money from VW.
Audi and Porsche, they benefit from being part of the Volkswagen.
They share a lot more parts. They're able to maybe they don't have the same profitability targets that other smaller automakers do. So.
Well, Audi's actually the most profitable company in.
Oh, is it really? Yeah.
Audi's.
I don't know. I always thought it was Volkswagen. Well, interesting.
No, Audi's the most profitable. Like I think they make the
money.
Most, like I guess maybe the most.
Oh, I see. Profit per car.
Yeah.
Per car.
Yeah. I think they're the most profitable car company. But they share platforms, right? So every Audi is based on a Volkswagen Group platform, and every Porsche that isn't actually the big Porsches like the Cayenne and the those things are all shared as well. So they have that benefit. So they can put in a little bit more money into interiors and stuff because they, have that Volkswagen financial muscle.
And I'm gonna end with this. Basically, just remember right now, there was another thing that came up on that meeting. Somebody asked about supercars and the i8 being a cool car, and will BMW make one? And they give kind of the same answer that I've heard before, offline, on the record also. They both said, basically, we love supercars. I mean, if it was up to us, we would design supercars all day long. Who doesn't like to design a supercar, I mean, every designer wants to do that. And they even mentioned that there were, several products that they've done over the years, and some cool ones. I think that was the term that they used. But, when you went with that business case to the board, actually, they didn't say they didn't make sense. I think Adrian said something like, it was not maybe the right time. So apparently sometimes they're able to squeeze in some of the cool products like the i8 because if it falls into the right timeline for the industry, maybe for the brand and so on and so forth, and they're able to make those cars because it makes sense for the things that happen in that period of time. But some other times you might be, building something that's not really necessary today, or it's not something that customers are looking for today. So that was the one thing that I've learned, that, they've done quite a few cars and they presented them, and not all of them made it.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely interesting because BMW has not really made a lot of supercars, and every time they've made one, it hasn't really done so well financially. So BMW doesn't have a great track record of supercars financially. So I can understand their hesitancy.
I mean, we talked about this with some other journalists too.
The i8 were never really financial smash hits.
Yeah, we should talk to Jason about this, right? Jason Kamisa, and we asked him, if he thinks that BMW should do a supercar. I think he said something like, no, definitely not. They should stick to doing,
you did say no.
ultimate driving machines, cars like the 2002 and E30s, and fun cars, fun cars to drive. Like
BMW is a 3 Series company.
Exactly, yeah. They don't, you don't have to build a supercar.
Mercedes is an S-Class company.
Exactly. And if you look at
BMW is a 3 Series company.
Exactly. And if you look at the M2 CS, I mean, that's the car that defines BMW, really. Like, to me, that's the car that says, we can make some really good cars. Of course, if it was I think the M2 CS got some little bit of a pushback because of its price. But then again, I think Johnny said something, well, is it really like overpriced? If you look at some other cars, he said maybe not. But he said, it's great performance. Then of course, if the cars would have been probably 10,000 cheaper, be like, oh my God, everybody would be jumping on it because be like, oh, this is such a great car. But like, it's a great product. It might not be selling out quickly because of its price tag, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's truly a driver's car.
Right. I think the problem with the M2 CS, if it has any at all, is the fact that it's like the average customer isn't going to get in the M2 CS. Like an average M2 customer isn't going to get into an M2 CS and feel like it's worth the premium over the competition. But someone like us, someone who really, really understands the minute, the fine details, will get into an M2 CS and say, this is special, this is worth the money. Because it is worth the money. It's so good.
You got to look at this from two different angles. So if I was an M2 competition customer, I would not sell my car probably to get the M2 CS. But if I was not an M2 competition customer and I was in the market for a sports BMW today, I would probably pick the M2 CS over any other product easily. I mean, I would not, if money was no issue, I would definitely pick it. I mean, there's no way, if I were to sell my M2 competition, I'm taking a loss on that and getting this one, maybe it doesn't make sense. But if you're a new customer looking for a good car, I don't see why you wouldn't want to go to the M2 CS, honestly.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the Porsche Cayman GT4 is probably the better driver's car.
I haven't driven it,
little bit. But it's like 20 grand more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's $100,000 for a Cayman GT4. And the BMW is like 83-ish. So, I mean, if you look at that, the M2 CS is cheap.
I think that's what Johnny said too.
It's cheap compared to some.
I don't think it's also fair many times for anyone, or even for us, to compare true Porsche sports cars to BMW M, because they're.
I mean, it's not a direct apples to apples, but what else are you going to do, right? Because like Porsche's the only one in that space. Like no one else is making hardcore bespoke, like hardcore sports cars. Like no one else is really doing it in that. I mean,
I can compare a Cayenne with an X5, that's fair, or a Macan with an X4.
Right. I mean, you're right in the sense like the Cayman is a bespoke sports car built on a bespoke sports car chassis, and the M2 CS starts as a 220D in Europe. Yeah. So like, it's a little unfair, but in terms of price and performance and what they are, like what else are you going to compare it to? So I guess we have to make that comparison. But at the same time, the M2 CS has advantages over the Cayman as well. It has a back seat.
True.
It's more comfortable. Mm-hmm. It's cheaper. It's easy. And it'll probably appreciate just as well because it's such a special car.
I think to me the M2 CS surprised me a little bit because they show that they can really push the boundaries a little bit more with the M2 competition, which was already a good car. I don't think I've ever read a bad review on the M2 competition. That's probably one BMW that everybody loved it. I mean,
Yeah, it's great.
I don't recall a negative review on that, honestly.
I don't think I know one either, and it's great. And anyone who, like, if you have an M2 competition and you don't want to get rid of it for the CS, like, I get it. The M2 comp is great. It's a fantastic car. The CS is better. It is, but you know.
I mean, if you're into collecting cars and you're thinking that the value might go up in the future, which could happen because now, you know, the extinction of combustion engines. I mean,
it's going to be the last. It won't be the last of its kind. There's going to be another M2.
Well, yeah, it'll be the other M2. Yeah, that will be the last of its kind.
So there'll probably be another M2 CS.
Yeah, so we can talk about that in the next, because I think by the time we do the next podcast, we might be able to see the new 2 Series. So we can talk about the 2 Series a little bit more. But the car looks exciting. The designer that did I can share this actually. The designer that did the 2 Series and the M2 is actually the same guy that did the M Next Vision car. So that's super futuristic M Next, which was supposed to go into production, apparently got canned. Maybe it's going to be revived. I'm not sure.
The M Next that had looked like an M1.
Exactly. So the M1 electric or hybrid, whatever it was. Yeah. So it's the same guy that did Jose. Super cool dude, very talented from what I heard, and he did the 2 Series and the M2. So I think it's gonna be a good looking car. It already looks really good in spy photos. It's super wide, the M2, like really wide. And it's got a great stance. So only request that I have to BMW M if they're listening, or I'm just gonna send them an email if not. I mean, they have to make an M2 CSL. They gotta just go all in for this generation. Yeah. Like, I don't know.
Let's do the last one.
Yeah, right? Make 100 units, whatever you want to make. Just make an M2 CSL. I think it's.
And they could sell it for $120,000, and they'd.
I think they will sell it if they make an M2 CSL, just for the fact that it's probably never going to be one again, or at least like this one.
Every shmee is going to buy one. And,
of course, it's good for them. I mean, if they can afford it,
they'll sell out in 15 minutes.
If
who cares? It doesn't matter what they charge for.
I mean, Team Shmee. I mean, Tim is his name. I mean, he does a great job collecting some really cool cars. If he has the means, the money, good for him. I mean, I will do this.
Oh, I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying everyone would buy one like that.
Yeah. So actually, we have to get Tim on it. We have to get Shmee on a chat, because he's been driving a lot of BMWs in the last few years. So I need to send an email to his manager and see if we can get him on for that would be a cool chat. We actually that
would be interesting.
Yeah, we spent a few days together a few years back in Peru for the Dakar, and I kind of wish we did a collaboration video. That would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. That would have been very interesting.
Yeah, so
Dakar.
Let's see, but yeah, so that's kind of all I have for today. I thought we're gonna cut it short, but it's still a little bit long. So, yeah. So for those of you listening, you can also see the video version of this on our YouTube channel. Just search for the BMW blog channel, and then of course you can also go on all the podcast platforms, Apple, Google, you name it, and you can subscribe there as well, Spotify. So that's kind of all we have. If you do have any feedback, as always, send a question to nico@bmwblog.com. If you have any topics you want us to talk about, I mean, we cover a lot in our writing and on the website, but sometimes we can take that and actually talk a little bit more on the podcast, so feel free.
Yeah. It's always easier to flesh out topics or anything. Like if we write something and you want more info on it, or you want it's obviously easier to discuss it verbally and flesh out details.
Exactly.
So yeah, send out.
In the next episode, I think I will talk about the i4 quite a bit, so there will be a lot to share on that. Nico's going to talk about the iX, so that will be definitely an interesting topic.
Excited about that.
And I might actually, I can tell you this. So what's today? 23rd. Actually, we're going to see the M4 convertible in a few days. So we can talk about that. It looks actually pretty cool. Actually, it looks really good. So
hey, after driving the M3, I'm excited.
Yeah, so convertible looks neat. It's got a super cool color for the launch. Yeah, so I can't really reveal what it is, but
ooh, is it a new color?
Yeah, I can't really talk about that yet, but embargo, I think 2 days from now we'll see it, or 3 days. So anyway, so I might be able to see the car actually also soon. So I can definitely share some videos on our YouTube channel about that, but also talk about the M4 convertible. And so definitely some really cool topics for the next episode. So make sure you're subscribed.
Yeah.
And how do they say on YouTube? Hit that notification.
Oh yeah. Click the bell and the subscribe button up here and down there.
It's funny how that works.
I'm not good at that.
It's really funny, but I guess it works. Yeah.
It does work. Yeah. Please subscribe, leave a comment, So you click the little bell, you get notifications.
Yeah, it's interesting, and that's really the last thing. That some of the videos that we put out and have like a controversial design, like the M3 or M4, people really not dislike the video, but they dislike the product. So,
so they dislike.
Yeah,
the
they
video?
dislike the video. So like some of them have a lot of like
that's not
thumbs,
cool.
you know, like thumbs down. And basically, what that does, it's really messing with the YouTube algorithm, as they call it. So basically, it doesn't get featured as much as it should. But it's really not that people don't like what we do with the video or how we present the car.
Right,
They don't like the car. So I was thinking the other day, I'm like,
remember, the like and dislike is about the video. It's about us,
exactly,
not the product in the video.
Sometimes, you know, when I see that dislike, I'm like, okay, well, it's not because they don't like what I said. It's really just the car, maybe, you know.
Right.
But
they might have agreed with everything.
Yeah, but it's
they just don't like the car.
It's funny. So sometimes I think in a future video we need to put a disclaimer, like, please do not dislike the video if you don't like the design. It has nothing to do.
Only dislike the video if you don't like what the video.
Exactly. Like, we did not design the car.
The video isn't us. Yeah, we didn't make the car. Don't
it should be like a double like. If you really like the design, now you should have the power of a double like. So.
Yeah, right.
But anyway,
like.
Fun aside, it's a good chat, man. I think I talked too much today, so next time it's all you. And
it's all right.
Yeah, so
no worries. You had more to say this time.
Yeah. So yeah, Nico. So yeah, it was good. It was good seeing you once again.
Yeah.
Thanks for chatting, and we'll see you soon, and we'll chat some more on the BMW stuff.